Authenticity is the degree that a person is true to their own personality, spirit, or character despite external pressures to act inauthentically. The key to communicating with authenticity is to first identify the values that describe you, and then make sure you communicate these values in most all settings. Here are some tips and actions to communicate with authenticity. The first one is to identify your values. Identifying your values involves some self-awareness. Start with making a list of your own values. If you need help, there are free assessments online, including the Values in Action inventory. Another great option would be the LinkedIn Learning course called Unlocking Your Potential by Haley Avolio. Test values in action. One of my core values is optimism. If I want to make sure that I communicate authentically, I need to test my assumption that this value shows up in my day-to-day interactions. So to do so, I need to gather some information. One option would be to do an email audit. This involves reading through my last 10 to 20 emails to determine how often I communicated with optimism. Another way to gather information is for me to watch recordings of meetings where I'm dealing with a variety of topics and audiences. Did I communicate using optimistic statements and positive emotions? Did I provide encouragement even when the topic was difficult? Were my nonverbals and body language communicating optimism? For example, a genuine smile, eye contact, or nodding while listening. Finally, I can turn to trusted colleagues, mentors, and friends to get some feedback. I would ask them if I show optimism in challenging situations. What is one of your values and how do you put it into action? Be consistent but flexible. We all have been frustrated at people who change their entire personality depending on who walks into the room. In my case, I would want to be optimistic even when the meeting is stressful or the news is not great. But in some situations, authenticity doesn't mean not to have a filter. We still always tailor to our audience and adjust to the context. So back to the optimism example. If someone is stressed out, my most authentic response would be to see the silver lining, because that's how I approach stress. But empathy and adapting my communication to the person and to the context is important. I might respond first by saying, "That does sound like a lot. I'm really sorry this is happening." As the conversation continues, I will drop in some forward-thinking options because that is staying true to myself while simultaneously being sensitive to the context. Authenticity is not a trait you proclaim, but a trait you demonstrate. Figure out what matters to you and how you show up to others. Remember, you can be consistent and flexible without sacrificing your core values.